Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Bhagavati Vasudha Devi Dasi from Mangalore, India. Please forgive me for stopping all of you from ecstatic chanting. Let us move on to the next part of the session. I would like to read the 10 offenses to the holy name given by Vyasadeva and Padma Purana. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of the Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic scriptures or scriptures in pursuance to the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be an imagination. 6. To give some interpretations to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities karma kanda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. 10. To not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success, Krishna Prem. Once again, I thank everyone for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Let us move on to the next part of the session, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. And may I know who are joining the call today?
हरे कृष्ण भगवती वसुधा माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम। शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरु महाराज की जय। प्रीतिदासी फ्रॉम शार्लोट। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna, Priti Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण।
हरे कृष्ण माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम। शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरु महाराज की जय। दिस इज अरविंद दास फ्रॉम शिकागो। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna, Arindas Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna.
हरे
Hare
कृष्ण।
Krishna, Bhagavati Vasudha Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharvika Devidasi from College Station, Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण माता जी, प्लीज एक्सेप्ट माय हम्बल obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. This is Yashamati Priya Devidasi from Cincinnati.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Priya Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna, Bhagavati Vasudha Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajis. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Raleigh. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Bhagavati Vasudha Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. My humble obeisances to all the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. This is Sundarangi Radha Devidasi from India. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sundarangi Radha Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference call. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Is there anyone who would like to introduce in the call today? I welcome all of you once again for joining today's Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are really fortunate to have His Grace Mahabhagavata Prabhuji to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, verse 8.2.33 onwards. Before I hand over the call to Prabhuji, I would like to hand over the call to Sundarangi Radha Mataji for the brief introduction on Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, over to you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to serve. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Here is a brief introduction about today's speaker. His Grace Mahabhagavata Prabhu, though born in a Madhva Vaishnava family, was drawn to atheism in his adulthood. While he started reading Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is just to find faults in it. This book had a profound impact on his life and clarified a lot of his misunderstandings. He met his spiritual master, His Grace Srimad Sankarsana Das Adhikari, in 2004. But it was only after several years of intense discourses and answers to over 600 questions. He was initiated in 2011 at ISKCON Austin, Texas, and then received his second initiation in 2013 at ISKCON Kaunas, Lithuania. Today, he extensively preaches from all of Srila Prabhupada's books. His primary services are Sankirtana, book distribution, teaching, mentoring, cooking, and deity worship. He speaks English, Kannada, Marathi, Hindi, and Telugu, and has a basic understanding of Sanskrit and German. He pursued a PhD in machine learning and computational linguistics in Toronto. But this coincided with his increasing interest in bhakti and had to choose between the research papers and the works of Srila Prabhupada. He currently works in the corporate world as a chief technology officer at an insurance company. All glories to Prabhuji's all wonderful services. This was a brief introduction about Prabhuji. Thank you, Mataji, for giving me the opportunity. Over to you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for that brief introduction on Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji there? Wait for Prabhuji to join. Is there anyone who would like to introduce in the call?
हरे कृष्ण माता जी धन्यवाद प्रणाम श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय गुरु महाराज की जय दिस इज वल्ली फ्रॉम नेपरवल शिकागो हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna, Vali Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances of glory Shri Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining Bhakti Sangha conference. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances of glory Shri Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji, for giving your valuable time and association in this Bhakti Sangha conference call. We are really fortunate to hear from you today on this topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. And today's verse is 8.2.33, Prabhuji. Krishna, over to you.
Hare Krishna, Mother Bhagavati Vasudha, please. Thank you very much for organizing this amazing, wonderful gathering, all of you devotees. It's really hard to do this in a consistent way. You have reached now the 8th canto, which is quite a milestone. I'm very grateful to you for hearing and chanting about Krishna in this way, in an online way, making the best use of all kinds of modern inconveniences and conveniences. Hare Krishna. जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जनम् यमुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय जय हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद श्रीला प्रभुपाद हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम राम हरे देवतानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णविंद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we are focusing on the verse number 33 from the second chapter of the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So 8 to 33 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's available here on the screen. I'll use a book here for me to read. Okay. यः कश्चनेशो बलिनोऽन्तकोरगा प्रचण्डवेगादभिधावतो भृशम् भीतं प्रपन्नं परिपाति यद्भयान् मृत्युप्रधावत्यरणं तमिमाहि। यः कश्चनेशो बलिनोऽन्तकोरगा प्रचण्डवेगादभिधावतो भृशम् भीतं प्रपन्नं परिपाति यद्भयान् मृत्युः प्रधावत्यरणं तमीमहि। यः कश्चनेशो बलिनोऽन्तकोरगा प्रचण्डवेगादभिधावतो भृशम् भीतं प्रपन्नं परिपाति यद्भयान् मृत्युप्रधावत्यरणं तमीमहि. Word by word translations given by Srila Prabhupada. Yaha, he who, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Kashchana, someone. Ishaha, the Supreme Controller. Balinaha, very powerful. Antaka Uraga, who's from the great serpent of time, which brings death. Prachanda Vega, whose force is fearful. Avidhavataha, who is chasing Vrisham endlessly, every hour and every minute. Bhitam, one who is afraid of death. Prapannam, who is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Paripati, he protects. Yat bhayat, from fear of the Lord. Mrityu, death itself. Pradhavati, runs away. Aranam, the actual shelter of everyone. Tam, unto him. Imahi, I surrender or take shelter. The translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly not known to everyone, but He is very powerful and influential. Therefore, although the serpent of eternal time, which is fearful in force, endlessly chases everyone, ready to swallow him, if one who fears this serpent takes shelter of the Lord gives him protection, for even death runs away in fear of the Lord. I therefore surrender unto him, the great and powerful Supreme Authority, who is the actual shelter of everyone. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who is intelligent understands that there is a great and supreme authority above everything. That great authority appears in different incarnations to save the innocent from disturbances, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, verse 8. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkrutam. The Lord appears in his various incarnations for two purposes: to annihilate the dushkriti, the sinful, and to protect his devotees. The king of the elephants decided to surrender unto him. This is intelligent. One must know that the great Supreme Personality of Godhead, and surrender unto him. The Lord comes personally to instruct us how to be happy, and only fools and rascals do not see by intelligence the Supreme Authority, the Supreme Person. In the Shruti mantra, it is said, Bhishasmad vatah pavate bhishodeti suryah bhishasmad agnish chandrascha mrityur dhavati panchamaha. Taittiriya Upanishad, second chapter, verse number 8. It is out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the wind is blowing, that the sun is distributing heat and light, and that death is chasing everyone. The screen needs to keep moving forward. It is out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the wind is blowing, and that the sun is distributing heat and light, and that death is chasing everyone. Thus, there is a Supreme Controller, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 9:10. Mayadhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam. This material manifestation is working so well. This is working so well because of the Supreme Controller. Any intelligent person, therefore, can understand that there is a Supreme Controller. Furthermore, the Supreme Controller himself appears as Lord Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and as Lord Ramachandra to give us instructions and to show us by example how to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, those who are dushkriti, the lowest of men, do not surrender. Namam dushkritino mudhaha prapadyante naradhamaha. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord clearly says, Mrityu sarvaharashchaham, I am all devouring death. Thus, Mrityu or death is a representative who takes everything away from the living entity who has accepted a material body. No one can say, I do not fear death. This is a false proposition. Everyone fears death. However, one who seeks shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be saved from death. One may argue, does the devotee not die? The answer is that the devotee certainly must give up his body, for the body is material. The difference is, however, that for one who surrenders to Krishna fully and who is protected by Krishna, the present body is his last. he will not again receive a material body to be subjected to death. This is assured in Bhagavad Gita. Tyaktva punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. A devotee, after giving up his body, does not accept a material body, but returns home back to Godhead. We are always in danger because at any moment death can take place. It is not that only Gajendra, the king of elephants, was afraid of death. Everyone should fear death because everyone is caught by the crocodile of eternal time and may die at any moment. The best course, therefore, is to seek shelter of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and be saved from the struggle for existence in this material world, in which one repeatedly takes birth and death and dies. To reach this understanding is the ultimate goal of life. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 2nd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Elephant Gajendra's Crisis. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances at the Lord's feet of my spiritual master. यः कश्चनेशो बलिनोऽन्तकोरगात् प्रचण्डवेगादभिधावतो वृषम् भीतं प्रपन्नं परिपाति यद्भयात् मृत्युप्रधावत्करणं धीमहि। The Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly not known to everyone, but he is very powerful and influential. Therefore, although the serpent of eternal time is fearful in force, endlessly chases everyone, ready to swallow him. If one who fears this serpent seeks shelter of the Lord gives him protection, for even death runs away in fear of the Lord. I therefore surrender unto him, the great and powerful Supreme Authority, who is the actual shelter of everyone. So, because this is the end of the chapter, we can reflect a little bit on the chapter, the contents of this chapter. We'll see how a particular heavenly region has been described, an island in the middle of the ocean of milk, and inside that island there is a lake that is described. So this island, the mountains, the Trikuta mountains with their peaks made of gold, silver, and copper, and various other peaks of different minerals, are very beautifully described in this chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We describe how it's a the waves of the milk ocean produce emeralds when it touches the shore of this island. It talks about all the different fruits and flowers, the different birds, the different animals that are there in there. It describes how the water in the material world, for example, we put on scents to remove the bad odor of our bodies. But in the heavenly planets, the water of the heavenly planets is scented by the bodies of the denizens of heaven, by the Apsaras. There are heavenly delights for everyone. The animals are also living in a heavenly delight. The birds, everybody is living in heavenly delight. But the main thing to note is that everyone has the fear of death, because the same law, Jivo Jivasya Jivanam, applies also in the heavenly planets, because it's still the material realm. the example that we can understand. And many of the residents of the heavenly planets don't even realize how amazing it is for them there, because of their consciousness. So, for example, you can imagine the situation of the dogs and cats of America and Canada and Europe and other such materially opulent places, relatively speaking, on the earthly planet. They are there living in a big, whatever, penthouse apartment or whatever, but they're still a dog or a cat. They don't really have that understanding of where they are and what they are appreciating. So it's the same thing for the animals there. They are living the heavenly life. They don't necessarily have the awareness of how amazing it is compared to the rest of the material world. So, but ultimately, no matter how wonderful it is, the fact is that Abrahma Bhuvanal Loka Punaravartino Arjuna Amupetya Punarjanma Dukkhalayam Shashvatam Napnuvanti Mahatmana Samsiddhim Paramam Gatah. So, Brahma Bhuvanal Loka, whether it's the Brahma Loka or any other planet among the 14 planetary systems, we have to experience birth, death, old age, and disease. Why? Because Krishna says that Jatasya Dhruvo Mrityur Dhruvo Janma Mritasya Cha, which means that if somebody has been born, then they have to die. And if somebody has died, then they have to take birth. So this is the material condition. Birth and death go hand in hand, right? And there are ways for us to elevate ourselves to the higher material planets, but it's of really no use, because Kshine Punye Martyalokam Vishanti. Tetam Bhuktva Swargalokam Vishalam Kshine Punye Martyalokam Vishanti. Evam Trayi Dharmamanu Prapanna Gatagatam Kama Kamalavanti. You can go to the heavenly planets, but you'll have to come back. You may even have to go to hellish planets. And just like Gajendra, who was a human being, went to the heavenly planets, but in the body of an elephant. Okay. So this is these last two chapters, the last two verses of this chapter, this one and the previous one, are really amazing verses, because Gajendra is teaching us by his personal example how to make a sankalpa, Dhrida sankalpa. He's making a Dhrida sankalpa, and he's making a beautiful prayer. He is saying that in the translation, we can read this on the verse, we can read it. Certainly not known to everyone, but he is very powerful and influential. So here, Gajendra, being the fact that he is in the body of an elephant, he's remembering that there is such a person, but you notice that he is not remembering Krishna by name. He's just remembering his qualities. But, and we can see at the end of this episode, we can see how Lord Hari personally appears to save Gajendra. Because Krishna says, Tesham Yesham to Antagatam Papam. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that what is that verse? In the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhakti Yoga, he says, Tesham aham samudharta mrityu samsara sagarat bhavamina chirat partha maya veshita chetasam. So the Lord himself came for Gajendra. So how to know this Krishna? Of course, it said, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha. That is there. But the key point is that I cannot understand Krishna without his consent, without his permission, without his anugraha. Madanugrahat, Krishna says. There are so many beautiful verses. There's the famous verse, Prasada Leshanugrahita evahi Janati Tattvam Bhagavan Mahimnam. So basically, Prasada Leshanugrahita evahi. You can only get know Krishna by his mercy. So how to understand this? We cannot force ourselves upon Krishna. We cannot say, knock on Krishna's door and say, you better show up now because I have come here to see you. We cannot adopt that kind of attitude, because a more powerful person knows the less powerful person easily. Like, for example, your doctor knows you medically really well, right? They know your body, they know what is going on with you. They probably know how long you're going to live also in general. But the government knows about you. They know about your financial history. They know about your date of birth. They have your fingerprints. They have everything, right? So the government knows you. The more powerful can easily know the less powerful. The teacher knows the student, the parent knows the child. But the opposite is not always true. It is very difficult for us to know the government. Do we know what our governments are doing? We don't know really what's going on in the back there. We have no idea. We only know as much as they reveal to us. The child only knows as much as the parent reveals. The student only knows the teacher as much as the teacher reveals themselves to the student. So if a less powerful person, such as ourselves, the jiva bhutama, yayedam dharate jagan, the one who are entrapped in material life, those of us who are in that life, we can only know the Lord as much as He reveals Himself, right? So in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, Krishna says, he calls Arjuna Anasuyave. Anasuyave means he who is not envious. If you are envious of Krishna, if you are trying to compete against Krishna, or trying to be the number one in this world, and not having a Trinapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishtuna attitude, then why should Krishna reveal himself to us? Right? It's not necessary for him to do that, right? So because he's Anasuyave, Arjuna is Anasuyave, Krishna is revealing so much about himself. Similarly, only Anasuyave can understand. Bhakto sime sakha cheti, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Rahasyam, he calls it Rahasyam. The Bhagavad Gita is openly available. We have distributed more than 500 million copies of the Bhagavad Gitas around the world since the 1960s. The devotees have been very prolific. But how many people actually understand the Bhagavad Gita? Why is it so? It is because it's an open secret, and only someone who is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead can actually understand Krishna. So what Gajendra says is 100% right? Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly not known to everyone. Ya kashchanesho balino antako ragat. And then in the next verse, he's talking about how he's very powerful, and how he's in the next word, he's talking about how he's powerful, and how he's, we all know that Krishna is powerful. Ham sarvasya prabho matta sarvam pravartate. Krishna says so much. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesya arjuna tishtati. He says in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvaraha paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So if he is the cause of all causes, he is the source of all sources, then how is it that he is not powerful? That is extremely powerful. Krishna in the Krishna Prabhupada also quoted in the purport how he says Mrityu Sarvaharas Chaham. Krishna is the death of everyone. So Gajendra is urging us through his own personal example that we should seek shelter of the Lord. So one who seeks shelter of the Lord becomes completely fearless. There's the famous what's that verse in the Bhagavatam, another one, print of a Samasitaye padapallava plavam mahat padam punne yasho murare bhavam mudhir vatsapadam param padam yat padam natesham. This material world is extremely dangerous, as Gajendra has fortunately discovered that he was intoxicated. Gajendra was intoxicated with his wives and his followers, and all of his different family members, children, nephews, etc., etc. He was very intoxicated by this, and he was thinking that, I'm so happy. He was pouring water on top of all the other, his wives and all the other elephants, his children, etc., just like a materially attached householder man does to his own family. He was just behaving like that. But fortunately, by the Lord's mercy, this crocodile, who is also another cursed being, by the way, Huhu, the king of the Gandharvas, has become a crocodile in this particular case, and we won't go into the history of all of that right now. But he has discovered that nobody can save me. For 1,000 years, he has been fighting this crocodile, and he knows that he is losing. The crocodile is winning because the crocodile is getting food and sustenance from Gajendra's blood, and he's in the water, so he's in a natural environment. Gajendra is a creature of the land. Water is not a natural environment for the elephant. So he's developing vairagya through this pain. Arto jidnyasu artharthi jnani cha bharatarshava. So 4 types of pious living entities surrender unto Krishna. So because Gajendra is very pious, he's artho, he's very distressed, and he's seeking the Lord's shelter. Okay, so I want us to quickly go to the 11th canto, 2nd chapter, verse number 37, because there is a very wonderful verse there given by, the purport there is by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, 11:2-37. If we can please pull that up. I will also pull that up here myself, 11:2-37. Okay, so this is a very famous verse, and it's very closely related to this particular verse. So everybody should say this, even though this verse is, in the 11th canto. We will come to it soon. All of us will come to that verse soon. Krishna says in this particular verse, there is a very amazing thing. So let's read the verse. So because I know that all of you are on mute, you can stay on mute, but we can all read together because it's very auspicious to read this particular verse. This is one of Srila Prabhupada's favorite verses. Many of his disciples also, one of his favorite verses, right? They quote it very often in the different classes. So it's very important to know this verse. Bhayam dvitiyabhiniveshata syad. Ishat apetasya viparyo asmriti tan mayayato buddha avaje tvam bhaktaikayesham guru devatatma. This verse is an amazing verse where the translation is, fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada wrote in the purport that everybody is afraid of death, right? Those who identify, not in this purport, in the previous purport, but it's okay. We can stay here because we'll be reading part of this purport also. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as a material body because of the absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. So actually, Srila Prabhupada wrote, everybody is afraid of death, but he means that only those who are not pure devotees are afraid of death, right? When the living entity turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. Now, Gajendra has reached the point of Yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrita. He is becoming free of dualities. Just see, he's caught up by a crocodile. The crocodile is pulling him into the water. He's going to eat him, right? That's the intent of the crocodile, pulling the animal into the water, because he wants to kill the animal and eat the animal. So Gajendra is this very dangerous position, and at that point he has forgotten his constitutional position, but he is now remembering his constitutional position as the Supreme Lord, as the servant of the Supreme Lord. So thus bewildering, fearful condition is affected by the potential of illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, this is intelligent, right? Here it says, therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. So, Yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrita. Gajendra has finished both his responsibility to live in the heavenly planets, as well as because of the 1,000 years of suffering fighting against that crocodile, he has also finished his papam are done, antagatam. He has reached the ending point of his things. So he is beginning to engage in this unalloyed devotional service in his last two verses, the previous verse and today's verse. He is actually making the sankalpa, dhrida sankalpa, utsaha nishchayat dhairyat tat karma pravartana. So he is basically doing that, so under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipable deity and his very life and soul. So for us, our spiritual master is to be accepted. So this purport is really, really, really amazing. So, but this purport is given by Sridhar Swami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and the disciples of Srila Prabhupada have practically verbatim copied that purport. So parts of this purport are very important. So one of them actually argues against the first point. One of the points, which is according to Sridhar Swami, the objection may be raised that since fear is caused by ignorance, that it can be dispelled by knowledge. There is no need to worship the Supreme Lord. What's the point of worshiping the Supreme Lord, right? The living entity falsely identifies the material body and simply has to give up this false identification. Then what will Maya be able to do? This is the camp that says, well, what's the need of God? I just realized that I'm not this body. Aruya kritchena parampadam. So here, this is the argument. But Sridhar Swami, remember, Sridhar Swami from the Shankara Sampradaya, he's saying, Devi Hesha Gunamayi Maya Duratya Mameva Prapadante Maya Metam Tarantite. It's difficult to overcome. This divine energy is difficult to overcome. Those who surrender can cross beyond it. So Krishna himself is saying that just because you realize that you're not this body doesn't mean that you're going to cross over the ocean of birth and death. You're going to fall down. Right? That's like in the heavenly planet, Kshidem Punyam Varta Lokam Vishanti. Similarly, in the same verse that I was just talking about, the same verse, you're going to basically Anadvita Yushmadangriya, Patanti Adho, you're going to fall down because you don't have that. So in this, because we are marginal, tatastha, right? Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunamyo vidadati kaman. There is only one eternal supreme eternal being who is supplying the needs of the innumerable others. This is from the Katha Upanishad. Ekale Ishwar Krishna Arsa Bhritya. So this is very important to understand. Finger is part of the parcel of the body. So the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that when the living entity develops a spirit of independence, he is forced to come to the material world, where he enters into various types of petty and undesirable behavior that create a fearful situation for him. Like, what is the purpose of the living entity appearing as elephants, going in the water, playing around? Like, what is the need for all of that, right? So the Lord covers, so the Bahiranga Shakti, the illusory potency of the Supreme Lord, covers all trace of the Chit Shakti and imposes one material body upon another, after another, upon the sinful living entity. As a further punishment, in the purport is written, the living entity was given his loving relation with Krishna, loses all power to perceive the eternal blissful form of the Supreme Lord. And you can see that Gajendra in this particular position, Gajendra is not calling out the Lord as Sham Sundar, he's not calling the Lord as Govinda, he's not calling the Lord as Hari. He's saying someone. He's mentioning in an impersonal way because he has become so covered up. But gradually it's uncovering. Yesham tu antagatam papam. Right? This is happening. Right? So there are so many wonderful points in this purport. I won't go through all of this, but I'll just mention one more thing. I've already quoted that verse. It's in a further paragraph of this purport that we are reading, which is the material world is padam padam yat padam. Samashrita ye pada pallavam. The padam padam is dangerous at every step. When we understand that, then, and we realize that we are a servant of God, then our fear is vanquished. How else can Gajendra make such prayers while being in the grip of the crocodile? We are all in the grip of crocodile. We cannot make prayers until we understand that we are dasosmi. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, here's a little bit of Sanskrit with the translation also. Atra bhaktai samsara bandhan na bhetavyam sahi bhaktau pravartamanasya swata evapayati. In this Bhagavad Dharma, devotees have no need to fear the bondage of material existence. That fear goes away of its own accord for one who engages in devotional service. Okay, so ultimately there's a lot of the bhayam cannot ultimately be vanquished simply by impersonal self-realization. There's many wonderful points. We won't read all of them. One important thing in that is that we are anandamaya, we are pleasure seeking. So just becoming free of fear is not sufficient for you. We need the ananda, which only comes in devotional service. Okay, so I won't read the whole thing because time is limited for us today. Okay, so Gajendra had this personal experience, right? That death can come at any moment. Recently, we heard, the ghastly attacks that happened in Kashmir, right? And these people, they were definitely in the consciousness of being in sense gratification. They were definitely in that kind of consciousness. And whatever they were like, you can see the descriptions, the horrific descriptions of the people. And they'll say, one moment we were eating bhel puri, and the next moment there was a machine gun, coming out at my husband. The lady says. So this bhel puri consciousness is not going to save us, right? So we have to always, because danger is at every step, we have to always remember wherever we are, whatever we may have to do because of our material bondages, we have to remember Krishna, because Krishna says that he gives protection. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam saranam raja aham tvam sarva vapebhyo mokshayishyami mashucha. He says, I give protection, right? So in the various shlokas, Nrsimha Chaturdashi is coming up this Sunday. So one of the verses is mrityur mrityu namamyaham, and the death of death. That means Lord Nrsimhadev or Sri Krishna, the death of death. That means he's the source of all immortality. So that people have been looking for that philosopher's stone, the source of immortality, the source of eternal youth, the source of wealth, all of these things, but that is actually only Krishna. So if you look, we have to take actual purport. Now I'm going to ask us to go to the previous purport, because there's an important thing in the previous purport that was probably covered yesterday. So can we go there to the previous purport of this verse, before this verse, 32, verse number 32. I just want to point that out, and then I'll conclude after doing a quick summary. Okay, so if you go to the previous purport, the 32, verse number 32. Click on the verse 32. Yes, thank you. Okay, so here, yes, if you go down here, Srila Prabhupada has quoted 7:9:19. Look at that. Just scroll down a little bit. Here, Balasya neha sharanam pitaro nasimha nartasya chagadam udanvati majjato no taptasya tat pratividhir ihanja sheshtas tavad vibhotanvritam tvad upekshitanam. So if you look at that last word, who are neglected by you and not accepted by you. So ultimately, we have to beg for acceptance by the Lord, because the Lord has not rejected us, but we have rejected the Lord. So now our rejection of the Lord has become the barrier for getting back to the Lord. So we have to, only the Lord can pick us up. So it's like how Gajendra was saved by the Lord, Sri Hari. Similarly, only the Lord can pick us up. That verse is very instructive in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is that which is I will deliver a person who is fully engaged in my devotional service. So we'll conclude last couple of points. How to start taking shelter. How to start taking shelter is what we are doing here in this program, by hearing and chanting about the Lord. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam. These three things are very important. What the effect of taking shelter is that, yes, the devotee has to give up his material body or her material body, but they will not have another material body. One more thing that His Holiness Bhakti Brihad Bhagavat Swami Maharaj instructed is that a devotee does not have the death experience. So externally, they may appear like they are medically suffering or whatever it is, but internally they are not having the death experience, because the Lord personally comes to take care of them. For example, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Antakale cha mameva smaran mukva kalevaram ya prayadi samad bhavam yati nasya samshaya. Bhagavad Gita says that, but for example, the Sri Sampradaya, Sri Ramanujacharya has explained that Antakale cha mameva smaran mukva, that Ante Narayana Smriti is varjanam for a person who is not required, for a person who has dedicated their whole life to Narayana, to their whole life to Krishna. Because if Krishna is a very grateful person, he's Achyuta, he's not an ungrateful person. So even whatever the circumstances of the devotee's death might be, whether you're caught by a crocodile, as in Gajendra case, or somehow or the other you're slipped in the bathroom, or there has been a car accident, like some of our spiritual masters have experienced in the past. So whatever the situation might be, the circumstances of the death is not super important as it is for the materialistic people. For devotees, Krishna himself comes. Krishna himself makes himself available. Whether he comes in the form of Hari on the back of Garuda, or whether he comes in the form of his holy name, it does not matter. The fact of the matter is that Krishna comes personally. Whether he comes as a vision of Lord Jagannath on the Rathyatra chariot, it doesn't matter, but Krishna will come. So we will learn by Gajendra's example in the next verses. So these are the two, these two verses, the last 32 and 33 in this chapter are the Sankalpa verses. And after the Sankalpa, the Lord inspires Gajendra to make beautiful, heart-melting prayers. And those prayers become the cause of Gajendra's liberation. So, in the Padma Purana, again, Srila Prabhupada has quoted in the Bhagavad Gita, he's quoted, Aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijam phalonmukham kramenaiva praliyeta Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam. So what it means is that we have many karmic reactions lurking inside. Some of them are kutam, hidden. Some of them are bijan, they are in seed form. We have already sown the seed. Some of them are phalonmukham. They are coming, whether it's health issues or relationship problems, whatever it might be. We are all experiencing these different kinds of issues in our life, whether it's money problems, whether it's bad weather, whether it's traffic, whether you're stuck, doing some things that you don't really want to do. All of these different things are results of our karmic reaction. But aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bijam phalonmukham kramenaiva praliyeta. Kramenaiva, gradually, in kramena, but with measurement, it's removed, destroyed. Kramena praliyeta, completely destroyed. Vishnu bhakti ratatmanam, a person who has developed rati, attraction for Vishnu bhakti. So this is our mission of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, to follow in Gajendra's footsteps by pursuing Krishna bhakti. I'll do a quick revision, and I want to take some reflections, because I really want to hear what you have gained from all of the different classes that you have heard. It will enrich me. Your reflections will enrich me, and I beg for that. And after that, if you have any questions, we can take those questions. So we are at the end of the chapter 8.2. We looked at how the heavenly realm, no matter how heavenly, is still full of dangers. We talked about how to know Krishna. We cannot know a superior by our stubbornness. We can know a superior only by their mercy. So we talked about how Krishna is very powerful and influential, capable of doing anything. We talked about how the serpent of eternal time chases everyone, right? And we discussed how the whole ocean of material suffering can be reduced to a water contained in the hoofprint of a calf, like it's about this big, by samashitaya padapallava plavam. So by taking shelter of the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord. Gajendra had this experience of how everything is amazing, and in one moment you're having so much sense gratification, you're having Bhelpuri, and the next moment you have a machine gun. In this case, Gajendra has a crocodile at his leg, pulling him into the water. Krishna guarantees, Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, guarantees, Aham Tvam Sarvapapebhyo Moksheshami, guarantees that for us. So we talked about how Krishna is Mrityu. So he's the death of death, which means he's immortality. Two negatives make a positive in this case. Mrityu, the death of death means immortality. How we can start taking shelter is by hearing about Krishna and developing our attraction for him in that way. And the effect of taking shelter at minimum is that we will not have any death experience. We will have Krishna experience at every moment, even at the moment of our death. And we can learn from Gajendra's example how making a Dhrida Sankalpa, Nishchayat Dhairyat, I will pursue devotional service. I'm not going to let go of this thing. No matter what happens, I will not go. I will not go. In this way, we can reach the same destination that Sri Gajendra has reached. Okay, so we'll take some reflections, and then we can take any questions that might arise. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for this very wonderful class, Prabhuji. I would request all the devotees, if you have any realizations, please go ahead and share, or you can raise your hand. We have Her Grace Shama Gauri Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very, very wonderful class. And you again reminded me my father's passing away. Like Krishna takes care of the devotee. That's what I see. And all our situation is like Gajendra. When the crocodile will catch us, we don't know. And thank you for relating the incidents happen in Kashmir and to the Gajendra. It's same. Whenever means when the death will come, we don't know. We have to always prepare for the death.
Yeah, and what's important is that there's no point getting angry with the instrument of our death, because that crocodile is an instrument of my own karma. If the machine gun comes my way, it's an instrument of my own karma. So no point getting angry with that. I just have to figure out how I can remember Krishna. If I cannot remember Krishna, I'm very unfortunate.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mother.
But
Thank you very much.
unfortunately, people are so much behind that gun. People, they don't.
No, my Guru Maharaj instructed that it is
Hmm.
our fault that people are not Krishna conscious.
Yes, yes.
He says it's your fault, Mahabhagavat Das. If you are a pure devotee, then nobody will remain in material consciousness. Why are you not a pure devotee yet? So to take that personal responsibility for each of us is the important thing. Instead of saying that somebody is not Krishna conscious, we have to figure out, we have to bleed for them and say how to make them Krishna conscious before the next person faces the next machine gun. And a lot of people are going to do that. Like there's nobody escaping death, right? So it's our to be in that urgency, that house on fire consciousness. That I have to figure out how to give Krishna consciousness to these people in some way or possible. So we should not rest before we have tried to give Krishna consciousness to somebody.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
I would love
much,
to hear
Prabhuji.
other reflections. Thank you, Mother.
Prahlad,
Mother Shyam Gauri.
Prahlad Anand Prabhu, you can please ask your question.
Dhanwad Pranam Mataji. Then Pranam to Prabhuji. What an excellent discourse you give, Prabhuji. Very enlightening. And I just have a little reflection where, Gajendra is praying, Tam Brahmaksaram Param Paresham Avyaktam Adhyatma Yoga Gamyam. So that Adhyatma Yagnam is our Bhakti Yoga, And and Bhakti Yoga, the most fundamental thing is, Mahat Pad Rajo Abhiseka. And then when Jarat Bharat is also telling Rahu Ganehi Tattavsana Yati Na Chejya Nirvapana Gruhadva Na Chandasane Jalagni Surya Vina Mahat Pad Rajo Abhiseka. Also Prahlad Maharaj says Naisambati Stavad Rukramagri. So what an excellent, you have motivated us to really,
Thank you very much for
appreciate
sharing this new gems. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll take one more reflection, and then if anybody has questions, we'll take those questions.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for this very insightful class and bringing the point that is Krishna is always there to protect us. Yeah, it's not easy to depend on Krishna, but hearing by devotees like all of you, it might slowly imbibe in our heart. One day we will totally surrender and have that faith that is always there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. Creating that faith in all of us, Mother. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes. Is there any questions? Otherwise, we can end.
No, Prabhuji, there are no questions of mind rise.
Okay.
If you're okay, we can.
Hare Krishna Mataji, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, Mataji, please ask your question.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanwad Pranam. Very, very wonderful class. Whenever we listen to this Gajendra Moksham, it is truly our human life and our karmas are in the form of crocodile. We all know that, and how the death is coming at any point of time, and no need to prepare for death. That's what I feel. We have to prepare to be Krishna conscious only. Once we are in that way, he will take care of everything, and we have to keep the faith. How the faith, actually last Sunday, we had the session at our temple. How strong should be the faith, and or who is the example, that is Prahlad Maharaj. They said he is having a lot of difficulties and he is the best example of keeping faith in God. So my question here, Prabhuji, is why Gajendra is not taking the name of any god like Krishna or Narayana or Vasudeva, like Dhruva Maharaj called and Prahlad Maharaj called with the name. Why Gajendra, he is not giving any name and he is saying like, oh, who helps everyone, who take care of everyone, please come and all that, without calling a name for him.
Yes. So thank you so much, Mother Vali. So I think it's your name is Mother. That's such a beautiful name. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
The first of all, Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj were both in human form. So they were doing devotional service in human form. So we can see that even the life of Jada Bharat had, the life of Bharat Maharaj, even though he was the deer, in the form of a deer, Bharat Maharaj was still Krishna conscious.
Yeah.
But he did not get liberation in that particular form. He had to take birth as a human being, and then he had to pass through all this. But there was also higher purpose, which is that he had to preach, etc. So in this particular case also, Gajendra's consciousness is somewhat covered. Like in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes in the future purports, why he is not mentioning by name, is that his consciousness is covered. So it's sort of, recently I met one 100-year-old gentleman in ISKCON Hyderabad when I was traveling there. He was 100 years old. His name is Narayan Reddy. So he told me that he had seen Srila Prabhupada, but he had not taken shelter of Srila Prabhupada. Even though he's 100 years old, he had met Srila Prabhupada back in the day when he was about, and I asked him, what is your activity? And he says, for 6 hours every day, 6 to 8 hours every day, I chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And so he was asking me some questions. He was very, very humble soul. He was asking me questions. And I could see that he actually had the Brahman realization from his chanting, even though he had not surrendered to the spiritual master. Because he had surrendered to the instruction of the spiritual master to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he had not actually accepted Diksha. And in that verse that we were looking at, he had not accepted Sakshad Haritvena Samasta Shastrai, Sriman Narayan Reddy. Still, he had this Brahman realization. So he was, he had come to meet Radha Madan Mohan on his 100th birthday. So that's how I met him.
He's following the spiritual instructions, but he's not following.
Yes. But he had Brahman realization because he did not. He had not connected. He had not connected the Hare Krishna Mahamantra to the form of the Lord. So the question that he was asking me showed me that he was on the Brahman platform. But all I could say to him was, please continue chanting, Prabhu, and surely you'll advance. So similarly, Gajendra, his prayers, even though they don't contain the name of the Lord, they contain the qualities and the activities of the Lord. So if you look at the prayers in the next chapter, right, he says, all auspicious lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? He's mentioning the quality, the form, okay, and because Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvam Nama Namino, you can go either way to that Abhinnatvam. You can go by chanting the qualities of the Lord. You can go by chanting the description of the form of the Lord. You can do the qualities of the Lord, the activities of the Lord, without mentioning the Lord's name. And sometimes this kind of impersonalistic preaching we may also have to do in the material world. Sometimes we have to state a Bhagavad Gita principle without saying that it is from Bhagavad Gita. Because the moment I say it's from Bhagavad Gita, then the person will not take it. But when I present it as a pearl of wisdom, they will say, oh, that's so profound, that's so amazing. They are actually performing devotional service in an indirect way, just like Gajendra was performing devotional service in an indirect way. So, like our great preachers, like there are many preachers like Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, there is Gaur Gopal Prabhu, there are many other devotees who don't necessarily directly mention something in a certain situation, but they are doing so for the benefit of the people who are in a situation lower than human life. So that they can appreciate the wisdom and then say, where is it coming from? Yes, where is it coming from? And then like that. So Gajendra was definitely, because he was his consciousness was a little bit covered. But the intensity of his prayer was so great that the Lord himself came.
The mind, the thought,
that's the intensity of
that matters
Gajendra's
more than the words.
Yes.
What he is thinking from
he was
inside.
in so much pain. Just look at the circumstances of Gajendra. For 1,000 years, he has been in the grip of the crocodile, fighting hard, and still making these kinds of prayers.
Yes.
Now, for us, one day, we get a fever or something, and we say, should I chant my rounds or not? Should I carry it over to tomorrow? Haridas Thakur, for example, said that, I want to leave my body because I cannot chant all my rounds anymore. I become too weak. So anyways, these are all...
I know that condition, Prabhuji, because I went through that experience for 8 months. I was in the hospital. I got my heart transplant also. I got lupus condition and all my organs failed. The only thing I was chanting, I was doing the devotional service. I have my book with me all the time, and nothing mattered for me whether I'm living or dying, because whatever I do, it is God's mercy wherever He takes me.
Welcome back. Krishna wants you to do a lot more.
It is 7 years for this 9th. This weekend it will be 7 years after the transplant. I'm still happy and I'm doing hiking.
Krishna wants you to do a lot more in His service.
Yeah, a lot more. I have a new realization.
He wants you to do a lot more.
Yeah. We feel this as an instrument.
And I also do a lot more. You have a lot more to do.
Prahalananda Prabhuji, I met him in Vegas last month also, Prabhuji. He was a very wonderful devotee. To see all these devotees and to meet him and get the realization. Once we, in the association of the devotees also, that matters a lot, how to put the use of this human life. And as Mataji was telling, how God is taking care at the time of death. He will decide whether you have to be in the same body or where to transform and where to move again. So we have to just give up everything and focus 100%. On His stories all the time. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Whenever I listen to the Gajendra Moksha, that is a wonderful story. I heard in one other Kada, in Ramayana how Vibhishana surrenders, and in Bhagavatam how Bharatam, Draupadi surrenders. In the same way, Gajendra is in the Bhagavatam. Yeah, three types of surrendering to Lord. That is very, very special for us.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Mother Vani. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for that wonderful sharing. Yes, Prabhuji, thank you so much. And there is some comments just saying that Koti Koti Dandavas Pranam. Thank you so much for the inspiring class.
Here. The devotee mentioned Radha Gopinath. So here, Radha Kirshor Gopinath. Right here. So it's a little unclear because of the blurring. I don't know.
Yes, the background is blurry.
Yeah.
Now we can see.
Now we can see, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, this is Radha Kirshor Gopinath from Toronto. So they were presiding over this class today. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very wonderful class.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
वैष्णववृंद की जय
प्रभुपाद की जय महाभागवत प्रभु जी की जय हरे कृष्णा
Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
राधे राधे